Today on Here for the Right Reasons, Ari Lyndike Jr. shares the advice he would give the Bachelor while throwing some fun shade at Sean Lowe.
The advice that I would probably give any Bachelor might even be better than Sean's advice because I made mistakes along the way, you know what I mean? And I can kind of help somebody not make those mistakes along the way.
Krista Sutter reflects on 20 years since The Bachelorette.
It was a little shocking, thinking that it's 20 years because we're just living life, and it is kind of crazy to think that that's how we met.
Plus, Caitlyn and Chris talk it out. Rachel responds to hanging out with Clayton as he is spotted with another woman. And Dale Moss reacts to Clare Crawley's wedding, and Bachelor Nation rallies around Sarah Heron. We've got that plus so much more on today's Here for the Right Reasons. Hey guys, Christina Garibaldi here with Us Weekly Deputy Editor Sarah Heron, and welcome to another week of Here for the Right Reasons. We are in week 3 of The Bachelor, and, some love connections are forming.
I mean, I think we can definitely say that Zach's the whole here for the right reason. Zach isn't dealing with drama. That was not a lie. He is, as Jesse Palmer said, making quick decisions, and he, is sending people home.
Yeah, knows what he wants. All right, before we get into our recap, let's see what you guys had to say about last week's show. Teresa says, please, let's get Christina for Bachelorette. I wonder if that changed after last night's episode, but yeah, I mean, at least she's entertaining, I guess.
She is entertaining, and it went the way I kind of thought it was going to go based on the promos, but it also feels like she did get so much screen time for, and did you see they snuck in that any single parents auditioning promo? I was like, is that a early launch of Christina, interest in her? But then you can't make your villain your Bachelorette. So I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know what's going on there either. We'll talk about more Christina a little bit later on, but a lot more comments, right?
Someone said, constantly hearing bad bitch energy is like Tayshia saying grown ass men. Very annoying. They underutilize the ultimate villain, Courtney. So yes, all about last week. Totally agree. They said bad bitch energy so many times, and justice for Courtney Robertson. If you're going to take her out of retirement, use her.
Right. Seriously. So underused. Aglaia says Zach is the first genuine Bachelor on TV. Guess they don't remember Ben Higgins, but yeah.
Sean Lowe, who we saw again. I feel like he was pretty genuine.
I saw somebody tweeted Sean Lowe didn't realize that he signed a contract to FaceTime Zach at all hours of the night. I'm like, yes, I guess so.
I know. It was how much was he paid for this? Did he get a mentor? See?
Credit? Yeah.
Get into with Chris and Caitlyn? Was there some sort of, there has to be something. He's not just going to keep appearing for fun.
I don't know. All right. Well, let's get into our Bachelor news of the week. And like you said, Chris Harrison and Caitlyn, they sat down to break down their falling out. And of course, they had to do it on Chris Harrison's podcast. She opened up previously on the Not Skinny But Not Fat podcast saying that Chris ghosted her after the whole Bachelor scandal. And she said that she texted him 10 times with no response in March of 2021, but he claimed that 7 of the messages were just that day. He said that there wasn't ghosting, and it had nothing to do with you and Tayshia hosting the show. It had to do with the fact that I was going through something extraordinary, and I don't mean this in a condescending way. It had nothing to do with you or Tayshia. He said at the time that he needed people in his life that were unconditionally loving and caring and reaching out solely to check in on him, his kids, and his fiance, Lauren. Well, Caitlyn said perception is never the actual reality. And so to me, I was like, I feel like I did reach out to you, and I did feel like I did reach out to Lauren, and I feel like I cared so much, but I was also in such a weird position. And then I understand that you were also in a weird position. So when I didn't get a text message back, I was like, okay, it's just, this is what it has to be. The relationship obviously has to change. She said in hindsight, she totally gets why he wasn't making her a priority. But yeah, this went back and forth, and I'm glad that they were able to talk things out, but it still feels awkward to me. I know you listened to the whole thing.
I did. I listened to Caitlyn's appearance on Not Skinny But Not Fat, and I listened to both episodes Caitlyn did with Chris. And, I feel a lot of ways about it. I feel like people all get mad when I criticize Chris Harrison, and I'm not trying to. It just left me with a weird feeling. Caitlyn was super apologetic. I didn't hear any apologies on Chris Harrison's side. And in my opinion, it was a little dismissive of her feelings to say, well, there was no ghosting and it was all the same text in one day, which maybe that is true. It was 7 texts in one day. And then a week later, he said, you followed up. You still didn't answer her. Yeah. And that made her feel less than, and made her feel like, you didn't care about her anymore, and made her feel like you had a falling out. And it's been almost 2 years and you did nothing to rectify that. So that her feelings aren't wrong. And she immediately just gave in and told him he was right. And he's totally valid, or like to want to have people in his life that are prioritizing him and his kids and Lauren. That's fine. But Caitlyn said she did call him after and talked about things. And Caitlyn also has a public platform, is a Bachelorette, is going to be asked about what he said. And everyone in Bachelor Nation, in some sense, has to kind of, if they want to keep being in Bachelor Nation, talk about Chris Harrison and answer for him and decide the path they want to go on. And they don't owe him anything and he doesn't owe them anything. But if they were genuinely this close of friends, it doesn't make sense to me that he would go almost 2 years without responding to her. And now he's trying to say it had nothing to do with her taking the job and he didn't care. But then why didn't you say, all good, we'll talk when I'm ready?
Right.
Any sort of response. It doesn't make sense to me.
Acknowledge her at all. And then when she went up to him at Wells's wedding and she was like, I miss you. And he's like, well, I've always been here. And one's like, no, you haven't. I've tried to reach out to you and you didn't say anything to me. So I'm not going to continue to reach out to somebody that's not willing to talk to me. And I'm sure she got all in her head being like, oh my God, Chris thinks that I took his job, which I didn't. And like, he said it wasn't really about that. And I mean, he did point out the fact that they made them mentors and they probably got screwed in the fact that he said that that the Bachelor franchise pretty much set them up to fail and never wanted them to really succeed, being, two hosts of the Bachelorette and then having a Bachelor or a Bachelorette. There's just too many cooks in the kitchen pretty much. And so I thought that was interesting. But yeah, no, like you said, Caitlyn's feelings are validated in this situation. Like I'd be pissed too if I reached out to somebody and they just never even acknowledged my text.
Right. And then
and I totally get in my head about it too.
Right. And the whole thing was like, oh, I'm dramatic. You're right. I'm dramatic. And it's like, okay, maybe she can be dramatic, but also you didn't answer. So that's just a fact. You didn't answer her. I know she didn't quote unquote use the word ghosting, but the definition of ghost, that is the definition of ghosting. Right. So this isn't clickbait. So stop saying everything is clickbait, Chris Harrison. It doesn't even make sense. Like you're overusing the word. So now you're like the guy who cried clickbait when you're also stirring the pot to get these headlines so you can do this podcast. So it doesn't make sense to me. And even with the wedding thing, like, he said, well, it wasn't awkward. I want to set the record straight. It wasn't awkward. Maybe she thought it was awkward. Right. She said it was. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, both things can be true. Yeah. And I do believe that he wants the best for Caitlyn and Tayshia. I don't think he actively wanted them to fail, or he would have said something at the time that they were set up to fail. And he did say, I wish we could have talked and I could have helped you maybe with your negotiations. Like, I do think he genuinely means some of that. But to me, I just left there feeling like, Caitlyn came in super I'm sorry if what I said in that podcast hurt you. This is what I meant. And he was like, well, you were wrong. And now everybody knows that I'm right and you were wrong. Thank you for coming on my podcast. So glad we set the record straight. And I was like, well, I feel uncomfortable.
Right. Yeah. Whatever. So awkward. And it's like, would you have helped her with the negotiations if you weren't even responding to her, just reaching out if she was checking to see if you were okay? I don't know. Very strange. I know. Yeah. So I'm sure we'll probably get a lot of hate comments from the Chris Harrison fans, but yeah, it was uncomfortable. And that's how she felt. And he should at least acknowledge that. Right. And his feelings are valid too. Like if that's what he wanted to focus on, that's fine, but don't act like you did not answer her for 2 years because you just didn't. That's literally a fact. So weird. Anyway, someone who definitely is probably not still in touch, Dale Moss and Clare Crawley. Clare got married, everyone. Congrats to Clare. Yes. She married her fiance, Ryan. That's exciting. And we caught up with Dale, her ex-fiance, and of course had to say, what do you think of the news, buddy? And he said, I think anytime someone finds love, that's a goal, and to find that for every person. So, there's nothing but love and positive thoughts on this end. I'm currently in the most amazing relationship, and it's been almost a year now. I think with anyone else's relationship, that's their relationship. I'm focused on mine. But again, I wish nothing but the best. Love is a beautiful thing, and I think it's great for anyone who finds that. In case you missed it, Clare and Ryan got married on Wednesday, February 1st. Wednesday, fun. Yeah. After more than a year of dating. This is her first wedding, but her third engagement, as all of us in Bachelor Nation are very aware. Yes, well aware. I can't imagine that Clare is even paying attention to what Dale has to say, but still interesting that he spoke out. Obviously he's going to wish him nothing but love. I mean, he's not going to say, I hate her. Right. He's been nothing but a high road guy, which has been interesting because he has been accused of being very for the wrong reason several times. But the Dale trajectory is kind of interesting. I feel like he got a lot of, you were here for fame. And did he get the fame? No, he had that really weird movie. Remember that? I don't remember what it's called. I don't was wearing glasses in the teaser. That's all I remember. But yeah, no, I think that a lot of people were kind of really turned off by Dale after what happened with him and Clare, rightfully so. So, I'm glad that everybody wishes everybody well. And Clare looked like she had a beautiful wedding. So happy for her. She deserves her happy ending. She's been wanting this for a really long time.
Absolutely.
Definitely. All right. Well, let's move on to Clayton because he has been making some headlines the past weeks. He was spotted hanging out with sports reporter Sarah Cardona at a college basketball game. They were seen attending a University of Kentucky basketball game in Lexington, Kentucky on February 4th. They shared some photos on Instagram and he posted a video of himself dancing in the stands saying the liquid courage had taken over by this point. Now, she's based in Lexington, Kentucky, and she is a local sports reporter. So who knows? They could have just been friends being in the stands together, or who knows? Maybe it could be more. But of course, he sparked some romance rumors with his ex, Rachel, after they were seen doing some TikTok videos. She put those rumors to rest, saying, "You guys have me dead. It's all good fun. Healing and forgiveness is a lesson I had trouble learning for a long time. I promise I'm not leaving this era quite yet." So what do you think's going on? And Susie even kind of chimed in too, throwing some shade on Instagram. So I don't know. I think that Clayton's just having fun getting back out there and dating again.
I think it was nice to see Clayton smile and goofy dancing. I think he's had a wild year. He's coming up on, this is a year since his season was airing. Mm-hmm. It wasn't easy for it to air. I always kind of felt like in more recent seasons, he was someone who got done pretty dirty by the whole show from start to finish. And he had a silver lining of Susie that obviously didn't work out. I'm sure that was hard. So I don't know if he's dating this woman, but it would be great if he was. And I think it was so weird that everyone immediately, when they saw that TikTok, assumed Clayton and Rachel were dating. And I was like, first of all, there's like 1,000 Bachelor people in the room. Right. Second of all, like, in what world are those two going to date? They don't even like each other. Like, I remember asking Rachel if she had more respect for Clayton after she was the Bachelorette, and she flat out said no. Not like she was one of those, whereas like Zach was like, oh yeah, like I totally, have empathy for Rachel now that I've done it. She was like, no, it's different. And I was like, okay. So I'm glad they got past that, but it wasn't like she's going to give him another chance.
Absolutely not. No, I just thought it was like a funny video that they were all like, and Bachelor Nation should just take it as a joke, but definitely not dating again. Don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, me either. Well, this is a sad story and always bizarre that there's someone in the Bachelor world that does have the same name as me, just spelled a little different. But nearly 1 week after Sarah Heron from Sean Lowe's season and fiance Dylan Brown's newborn son died at 24 weeks, she is coming to terms with her changing body. She wrote on Instagram, "Suddenly my days that should be spent sampling belly oils and rubbing my bump are spent taking a crash course in postpartum relief through streaming tears. I don't want relief. I want my baby." She had revealed over the weekend that their son Oliver died after she gave birth at 24 weeks. And there are a lot of members of Bachelor Nation around her, including Clare. She said, "Oliver, you are so loved. Sarah, you are the most amazing mother, and your strength through everything to fight hard for your son has been nothing less than beautiful to witness." Chris Harrison wrote, "God bless you, Sarah. We love you." Catherine Lowe wrote, "Oh, Sarah, I'm so very sorry. I wish I could hug you right now. What a heartbreaking experience. Precious mama, sending you so much love and praying for you both."
Oh God, I couldn't even imagine. I hope she and her husband and her family have a lot of healing, and it's just the unimaginable. It really is.
It really is. And I think how it's therapeutic for her to share. She was sharing about her fertility journey. She shared her pregnancy. Now she's opening up about this. So hopefully she finds any solace she possibly can in the comfort of people rallying around her. But there's not much you can say or do for someone.
No, but I'm sure like a lot of people are probably, because a lot of people I'm sure have gone through the same thing, and to seeing somebody being so public and open about it, I'm sure it's helping a lot of people as well.
Very true.
So, wish them nothing but the best, really do. All right, well, let's take a turn and move on over to our Bachelor Nation talk. And I know that you had a really great chat with Ari. I know that you're a big fan of the Traitors, but you did manage to get in some Bachelor talk as well.
Of course. I, had to ask him about those comments him and Lauren made about kind of feeling like the Bachelor should maybe be including them more, celebrating a quote unquote success story. And then I was like, but do you really want to be included, Ari? Because then we're going to talk about everything that happened back in the day. And here's what he had to say about that and why they always call his friend Sean Lowe to give the advice.
But would you even want to go and give advice and do that stuff? Because doesn't it kind of open it up to people being like, oh, that's Ari. He, did this or that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True. I mean, yeah, I do feel like the Bachelor franchise is a little bit behind us. Like it feels almost like a dream.
Yeah.
My advice that I would probably give any Bachelor might even be better than Sean's advice, because I did I made mistakes along the way, you know what I mean? And I can kind of help somebody not make those mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I think it is kind of funny. I think the show has changed a lot. I think this season they're trying to bring the romance back. So I hope that is the case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but for me, it does feel like a lifetime ago. And every journey is different. Everybody's journey on The Bachelor is going to be different. So it is really hard to lend advice, but I am surprised when bachelors get selected and then they don't reach out to previous bachelors. And I have said this like on different occasions too, that I was reached out by previous bachelors and I didn't like take the call from like Nick. I talked to Sean because Sean's my boy.
Yeah.
But like other bachelors reached out and I didn't take the time to actually pick up the phone. I should have. As a bachelor like Zach, he probably should take all the info that he can.
Yeah.
And I'm saying outside production because production has a great team to try to like help the bachelor along, but really the best interest is the show. It's not really them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's the big thing to take away is like, at the end of the day, this is like your life. And these are really big decisions. And that's why it was so fun doing Traders, because there really was no pressure. If I left and lost, it was fine. You know what I mean?
Totally.
The Bachelor is like this huge, pressure cooker. And I really do feel for all the leads.
I do agree with him. He probably would have some good advice to give them, since
probably advice they can't air.
Right. Yes, true.
But yeah, I thought it was really fun to talk to Ari. It's been a minute, and that the show The Traders I really enjoyed. And if you watched it at all, I highly recommend going to listen to the podcast with Ari, because he is pretty like candid, and honestly it was nice to get a new side of him, because as the Bachelor, he obviously had a rocky road, but it all worked out. It all worked out. 3 babies later, it all worked out. And speaking of a marriage that worked out from the Bachelorette, Trista, who you also caught up with, my mind is blown that it's been 20 years. 20 years for Trista and Ryan. They'll be celebrating their 20th anniversary in December of their wedding on TV for all of us to see. And I just, I think she's still in a little bit of disbelief too. So here's what she had to say about that anniversary coming up.
This year will mark 20 years since you were the Bachelorette and of marriage and all that craziness. Did it go fast? Does it feel like a long time ago, or does it feel like yesterday?
It's funny. I feel like it feels like both. So someone texted me yesterday and showed me a picture of the front page of the paper here in Vail. It's called the Vail Daily. And they were doing like a 50 years ago in Vail, 30 years ago in Vail, 20 years ago in Vail. And we were on the cover or on the front page of the paper saying, 20 years ago, a firefighter from Vail was shown. I don't know if it was shown on air or what happened yesterday, but it was a little shocking, thinking that it's 20 years, because we're just living life, and it is kind of crazy to think that that's how we met. You have to remind yourself sometimes, because we are just a normal couple. But yeah, 20 years ago, it feels a little like both. Like, I feel like I met him yesterday, but at the same time, I look at my kids who are taller than me now and think, yeah, that didn't happen yesterday.
I just love that she's like, this was so long ago. My life is so normal. And like, it is. It's definitely like a lifetime ago. Her kids are grown. It's crazy. It felt nice to talk to her after that rumor was going around Instagram of like an OG couple or some Bachelor couple ready to announce their split, because no one was naming them. Like, people were guessing, and I don't even know if it's true, by the way. Like, who knows? Those blind gossip things are ridiculous. Sure. But I was like, okay, I have an interview scheduled with Trista. Like, I not that she would just like tell me on that random Zoom, but like, I was like, okay, like, I think we're in the clear with the OGs. Definitely. I hope so, because I would be so upset. Love would be dead if they split. All right. Well, let's get into our Bachelor recap. We had a couple one-on-one dates, a pool party, but what did you think of Katie's one-on-one night at the museum, having her do the walk of shame? I thought it was sweet. I think her and Zach are sweet. She seems great. I feel like they did that to stir the pot and mix things up, and it didn't really work. Like, the women, there was that one walk of shame comment, but for the most part, Katie seems pretty well liked in the house, where it made the women a little insecure and self-conscious, which I guess was the producer's point, to be like, oh, she's spending all the extra time with him. But it kind of set her up to be some sort of target, and I didn't really get that. So either they didn't air it because they want us to like Katie, or the women were genuinely happy for her in some sense. If that's what I got from it. No, definitely. It seems like, despite the Christina drama this episode, we're really not getting the cattiness that we usually get, which I kind of like. It's kind of refreshing. We don't really necessarily need it. Yes, we need a little bit of drama here and there, but yeah, it seems like she's really well liked. They had a really good connection. I feel like she might go far.
I think she's going to go far too.
Yeah, I do too. All right. And then we had our annual football game with the women, which seems like to happen all the time. But, despite the game, it seems like at the group date later on, it's like everybody kind of going in on Christina. It seems like this was her time to kind of take the rap from everybody.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because we'll get to her social post about her exit and kind of what it implies, but it's always a complicated thing of, the girl who is the confident one, and confidence always comes off as arrogant or bitchy on this show, and sometimes it's both.
Yeah.
With her, it's hard to tell. I mean, I think that clearly there's a few women who she pissed off, and they definitely highlighted their stories, and I'm sure their feelings are somewhat valid. Also, though, I feel like maybe she is just like a loud and a little obnoxious. So, if people are sitting there quiet and everyone's being like, oh, it's my best friend just left, I'm so sad my best friend just left, when Bailey like randomly got sent home in the middle of the group date and they were like, our best friend just left.
Right.
He's also the one maybe in like the real world being like, your best friend. Like,
no, totally. Because she was like, this was inevitable. Like, yes, people are going to go home. Like, I agreed with her. I was like, you're not your best friend. You met her 3 days ago. Like,
yeah. And that's usually not a good, like, it's hard for that to land on TV. It's much easier to be like, oh, like cry, like the sympathetic girls. And she, definitely took a risk with her being out there with her personality. And I feel like it worked in the first 2 episodes. And then this episode, they were able to tweak it to make us, with the music behind her. It got a little bit towards the end when you had Brianna saying she didn't feel safe, and the charity stuff, like that was a little, okay, maybe it's not just the music, like maybe there is a little mean girl in her. But I think maybe it's all of the above is true.
Yeah, no, I didn't really understand why she was confused that she didn't get the group date rose and, hijacked Charity's moment. I mean, that wasn't right. But yeah. And like you said, Brianna saying that she didn't feel safe in the whole situation. So it's kind of hard to know who to believe and who not. You can't, like we said, that's how she felt. You have to validate her feelings. And if she felt like that, but yeah, it seemed like Christina was getting a little too confident. But I was actually really surprised that he sent her home, because I thought, I was like, producers are going to keep her around for another couple of weeks because she's stirring up some drama. Like, there's no way that they're going to let her go in week 3. And when he did, I was like, wow, this is, I guess he's really kind of taking the reins of this show.
I thought the same thing. And I thought it kind of set the tone. It's continuing to set the tone. This has been 3 weeks in a row where he's sent home people mid-date. Anytime anyone comes to him and is like, I don't know if I'm feeling this connection, he's like, okay, leave. Bailey, Brianna this episode, the first episode with what's her name, I already forget. He's doing that very actively. And then even with, Christina not getting the rose. So I don't know if it's because the producers wanted him to come off as Bachelor who doesn't mess around, or if it's Zach really insisting he doesn't want to be in the drama, maybe both, but it's definitely setting a different tone than other seasons. And Allie obviously had the one-on-one in the jumped out of the plane in a wedding dress. She also seems like he really likes her. She was saying things like, I'm really guarded. He's like, no, you're not. Like he was like, he was into her. So I don't think it matters what he said, but I think both Allie and Kody, I'd be shocked if they weren't like top 6-ish.
I agree. Totally. It seems like he's really getting some strong connections. He had a strong connection with Ariel as well. They were vibing in the pool together or the hot tub together. So I think maybe she'll go far. I don't know. It's very early. It's kind of too early to tell, but it seems like, Kady and Allie, definitely some front runners, and even Charity, I think too. I think she might go far.
I think Charity and Jess, the 23-year-old who keeps shaking, he tends to give a lot of time to. So
we'll have to wait and see. All right, well, let's get into our Bachelor social media moment of the week. And like you said, Christina took to social media and kind of threw some shade at the editing of The Bachelor.
Yes, she posted clips from her one-on-one date that was very talked about. So this is another thing with the editing. Was she talking about this one-on-one date so much, or was she talking about it last week and a little bit this week? But obviously one of the women was upset about it, so totally unclear. But she posted screenshots from her one-on-one date in which she's wearing a dress that has roses on it, and then a video of her and Zach making out on this group date, and when she's wearing a different blouse but similar. And it appears that the confessional in the rose about, wanting the rose that they played over her group date moment was actually from last week. She wrote, I loved my rose dress from date number 1 so much. Thrilled to see it featured in the middle of a group date again in tonight's episode, with like heart eye emojis and hearts, clearly with some sarcasm there. But I kind of like it when they're ballsy. I don't like the blame of the edit, but this feels like receipts, not edit.
It does feel like receipts, and I love to see it. And I feel like we will see, this is not the last we'll see of Christina in Bachelor Nation.
I feel the same way.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is it for this week's episode of Here for the Right Reason. Sarah, who's on the podcast this week?
I should be talking to Bree from Matt James season, and I might have a couple other interviews lined up for the bonus episode on Thursday, but a lot of moving parts this week, so we'll see, but there'll be something on that feed.
Stay tuned, everybody, and make sure to keep commenting, keep subscribing, and we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
For more news, content, and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.